Heya Cryptozens, tonight's show, Weekend Roundup. These are all brand new stories that I did not report on earlier this week. We've got stories on the CFTC, CBDCs, MetaMask, Kazakhstan, and Hinman. It's 10 p.m. Pacific time. The date is October 1st, 2022. Welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. My name is Nikodemus, and I'll be your host. The cover model, mascot, and co-host for this podcast is Tex. And together, we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space and the industry that surrounds it. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. Monday. One of the things about the blockchain is it's supposed to be immutable. Once a thing has happened, it has happened and cannot be undone. There is a beauty to that. It's truth. And with that beauty and truth comes responsibility. You are expected to secure your assets. That or pay someone else to secure them for you. Code is law. Code does what code does, and assets do what assets do. Once a thing is done, it stays done. You don't reverse that. You may compensate for it. You may adjust for it, but you don't erase it. That's the idea anyway. And that idea means a lot to some people. That's the reason why we have an Ethereum and an Ethereum Classic. There was a big hack. Some people said, hey, we'll just back that transaction out and everything will be okay. Others felt like that defeats the purpose of making an immutable blockchain. The two sides couldn't agree on reversing the hack, so a schism formed. And now we have Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. Some people want to change that. Researchers at Stanford University have come up with a prototype to introduce reversible transactions on the Ethereum blockchain. It's not really a prototype, really. It's more of a concept, an idea for discussion. Kaylee Wang is a Stanford blockchain researcher. She gave a version of how an Ethereum-based reversible token idea could work. She does note that it's not a finished product. She calls it a, quote, proposal to provoke discussion and even better solutions from the blockchain community. She continues by starting to talk about hacks. She says, quote, the major hacks that we've seen are undeniably thefts with strong evidence. If there was a way to reverse those thefts under such circumstances, our ecosystem would be much safer. Our proposal allows reversals only if approved by a decentralized quorum of judges. That bit about the judges in there, we're going to get back to that. So this proposal was put together by Kaylee Wang, Kinchin Wang, and Dan Bona. And in this proposal, they lay out their plan for, quote, opt-in token standards that are siblings to ERC20 and ERC721. These new tokens would be called ERC20R and ERC721R. And what they do is offer an opt-in standard that, quote, simply allows a short window post-transaction for thefts to be contested and possibly restored. So here's their plan. If someone has their funds stolen, they can submit a freeze request to a governance contract. This would be followed up by a decentralized court of judges. These judges would vote within a day or two to validate or reject the request. So it would work kind of like a court case, I'm thinking. Both sides would be able to provide evidence to the judges, and then the judges would render their decision. Now, for NFT, that's simple. Find out who has it, who claims to own it, and freeze the account. But with currency, it's different. Because unlike an NFT, crypto can be split up, put back together, traded for other assets, run through a crypto mixer. In that case, they would watch the account. They would only freeze just enough funds to cover the alleged theft, and even then, they'd only be frozen if, quote, there's a direct flow of transactions from the theft. Now, there's a lot going on here. And I want to acknowledge what Ms. Wang has done here because we are certainly talking about this. Now, I don't think it's going to work. This cabal of decentralized judges is just too weird to me. I wouldn't trust it. It's much like a bank where you just don't know who the players are. And I can empathize with them. Being stolen from sucks. I know it. I don't think losing the dependability of blockchain is worth giving that up for, though. As always, hodl your currency. Cold storage, preferably. Check your links. Think about what you're doing before you sign anything in your wallet. keep your private keys private. In some ways, you will never have more control over your crypto security than you do right now today. In the future, they're going to make things easier. They're going to make things simpler. And making things simpler and easier will take away some of that control and security. Be vigilant and custody your own. Tuesday. Russia has entered the pilot phase of its central bank digital currency project, and it looks like they're considering making a go of using that CBDC to settle international trade. This information comes to us from Reuters. Russia is reportedly going to use the digital ruble for settling payments with China by next year. Currently, it's being used as a settlement instrument between banks, and that phase of testing is expected to wind down by early next year. One of the things that we've talked about in the past was that Russia was considering allowing the use of cryptocurrency for cross-border payments. That's a separate thing. This one is just about their CBDC. Anatoly Askakov is the head of finance committee in Russia's lower house of parliament. In a stunning turn of events, Askakov admitted that the sanctions from the West have seriously limited Russia's options as far as international trade goes. And so they've been working on finding a solution to get around these sanctions, alternate forms of payments and trade settlements. Askakov said, quote, "The topic of digital financial assets, the digital ruble, and cryptocurrencies are currently intensifying in society as Western countries are imposing sanctions and creating problems for bank transfers, including in international settlements." And so it came to pass that Russia entered the final phase of their CBDC development. They're expecting to be able to connect all the banks and credit institutions to their digital ruble platform in 2024. If they adopt a CBDC, that means they will not have to overturn or modify their 2020 law against using crypto as a form of payment. It's not crypto, so it doesn't apply. Now, while Russia is nearing the end of their CBDC development, Australia is just now getting started. Australia's Reserve Bank, which is their central bank, worked with the Digital Finance Cooperative Research Center to put out a white paper on the potential CBDC. Now, while they're getting a late start, they're expecting to complete their pilot project by the middle of next year, which is a really aggressive timeline. The white paper is called the Australian CBDC Pilot for Digital Finance Innovation. It takes a look at use cases for a CBDC. And so they worked with their partners on an exploratory research project that took a look at the technological, legal considerations related to a digital currency. They also gave outside participants from the industry a chance to weigh in on digital currencies and how it could interact with the national monetary network. In one respect, they are well ahead of the Russians. Just about a year ago, Australia's Reserve Bank worked with the central banks of Malaysia, South Africa, and Singapore to test cross-border transactions using CBDCs. An executive from the Central Bank of Malaysia said that the multi-CBDC program, quote, has the potential to leapfrog the legacy payment arrangements and serve as a foundation for a more efficient international settlement platform. And with that, let's turn our attention now to France. They are also looking at a wholesale digital currency. This would be used by banks and financial markets. On Tuesday, the Banque de France announced these new projects. A Bank of France governor said, quote, "A wholesale CBDC could significantly contribute to improving cross-border and cross-currency payments." And he's right when he says that wholesale CBDCs don't get the same attention that retails does. And I'm fine with that, actually. If they want to keep CBDCs among the banks and among the markets, that's good by me. Actually, I encourage it. I like that level of transparency between the banks and the markets. Another thing that they talked about was using blockchain to issue and distribute tokenized bonds. They also announced that the European Central Bank is taking up the issue of whether to issue a digital euro or not. This could be as soon as 2026. And so it goes with the CBDCs. We'll let you know as soon as we hear something new. Thursday. Recently, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a partial mobilization of reservists to fight in Ukraine. In addition to that, Heya Bank suspended the use of Russia's Mir payment cards. Since that time, Russia has been hemorrhaging people, especially men, people trying to evade the mobilization. One of the places that they're fleeing to is Kazakhstan. And in response, Kazakhstan says that they're ready to legalize crypto. Sort of. President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev said that if there's enough demand, they're ready to start up a mechanism to convert cryptocurrency to local fiat. He was speaking at Digital Bridge 2022 when he emphasized his plans to turn Kazakhstan into a leader in the field of cryptocurrency and its related industries. And he points out the country has drafted amendments needed to pilot a mechanism for converting crypto at the Astana International Financial Center. He said, quote, "We are ready to go further. If this financial instrument shows further relevance and security, it will certainly receive full recognition." Now, he visited the booths of a major local lender and the Intebex crypto exchange while he was there. And the Intebex announced that with the Eurasian Bank, they'd completed the first transaction swapping crypto for fiat. This was in cooperation with other crypto projects like ATAIX and Kazakhstan's largest bank, which is something of a milestone for them. It represents the first time Kazakhs are allowed to buy crypto using their national currency. Now, Kazakhstan isn't the only ones. Russians are also fleeing to Georgia en masse. And like Kazakhstan, Georgia is introducing their own crypto regulations in hopes of becoming a global crypto hub. Wednesday, MetaMask Institutional announced an addition to the custody services that they offer their institution-level clients. This is in response to institutional investment, which is actually pouring into the NFT scene. And so MetaMask announced a partnership with Kobo. Kobo is an NFT management and storage service. So their plan is to become a one-stop platform for large corporations and their digital assets. Now, for average users like you and me, they don't offer custody services. That's just for the big boys. So this is the institutional branch of their wallet. They've been developing custody partnerships with large-scale clients across the world. Tavia Wong is the Director of Marketing and Business Development for Kobo. They said not only does providing custody services mean more asset protection, those services should also be useful administratively speaking. Quote, "Because of the high levels of users and different clearance levels, institutions require additional features to avoid internal failures and the consequences of negligence." Now, one of the things that this new integration does is let clients designate roles, and there are also internal collaboration tools. These controls set user limits on buying, trading, and selling assets. Those limits are set by the administrator. Quote, "With multi-sig access, it ensures that no single entity will be able to control all assets, removing any single point of failure." And I get the security concerns. Automating those limits like that will be nice. That said, it's still not self-custody. Not your keys, not your cheese still applies, whether you're a retail investor or institutional. That said, many people just simply are not ready to assume that level of responsibility. That people who aren't technical are going to demand a more user-friendly environment. And that user-friendliness may come at the expense of security and financial autonomy. Because, to be honest, if we want everyone to invest in crypto, we need to make it easy for everyone to invest in crypto. That means making it easy and safe for everyone to use. Friday, U.S. District Court Judge Annalisa Torres has overruled the Securities Exchange Commission. Again, this is the SEC's second attempt to withhold documents that belong to the former division director, William Hinman. These documents are related to a speech that Hinman delivered at the Yahoo Finance All Markets Summit in 2018. And these documents and the ideas expressed in them have the potential to greatly change the crypto space in the United States. Because in that document, he states Bitcoin and ETH are not securities, allegedly. The SEC hasn't produced those documents yet, which is why Ripple Labs wants it. Because the SEC is suing them, alleging that their sales of XRP violated U.S. securities laws. However, it's not time for them to start celebrating. Not just yet. Because we don't know whether the language used will be as meaningful as Ripple hopes it is. So what this means is that the judge has overruled the SEC's objections to releasing the documents. That's because the orders of District Judge Sarah Netburn that emails about and drafts of the speech are not protected by the deliberative process privilege, as the SEC contends. So then the SEC tried to claim client attorney privilege as the reason not to release the documents. Judge Torres' overruling puts the kibosh on the SEC's latest objections. It's been kind of a long saga to this point. The SEC filed against Ripple Labs, Brad Garlinghouse, and Chris Larson in December of 2020. Their contention is that Ripple's token XRP is a security because the company used it to raise funds. There are a lot of people watching this, in particular, because most SEC cases don't see the inside of a courtroom, which means precedent never gets set. That may well change soon. On September 17th, both the SEC and Ripple Labs filed motions for a summary judgment. And that's going to do it for this week's Weekend Roundup. I want to thank you, my listeners, because when you stop listening, I will stop talking. Take care of yourselves, but take care of each other too. We'll see you tomorrow night.